Hi everyone, it's Liam Naden here, and welcome to our latest episode. And it's hard to believe this is episode number 24 in our series. And remember, you can always listen to any of the earlier episodes, the other 23 of them. They're all available on my website, liamnaden.com, so you'll find those listed there. Anyway, today I want to carry on with our series of giving you ideas and ways to help you save and strengthen your marriage. And I've got what I think is another very interesting topic to talk about. But before I do, I just wanted to let you know about some very exciting news. Now, if you're in the situation where you're wanting to work on your marriage or save it, and your husband or wife doesn't want to, then I have a brand new program coming out, and it's being launched on the 1st of May, and it's going to be perfect for you. And it's called Save Your Marriage When Your Spouse Doesn't Want to. So I think that pretty well sums it up. And you know, my Save Your Marriage program is a very powerful system for helping people to transform their marriages. But what I've found is that many people on the program are wanting to save their marriage and they're not getting any cooperation from their spouse at all. And while I do cover that and a lot of aspects of that in the Save Your Marriage program, it's not the absolute focus of the program. So what I've done is I've created this new program is, if you like, a turbocharger for those people whose spouse wants a divorce or who's walking out on them, or maybe already has, but they're completely uncooperative, resistant and hostile to the idea of saving their marriage. So this new program, Save Your Marriage When Your Spouse Doesn't Want to, so this new program is going to be launched on the 1st of May. And I'm going to have a very special introductory offer on that program. So if you would like to be kept informed about that, and if you'd like to know what that offer is and be informed about when this program is being released, just make sure you go and sign up on my website for the free report at growinginloveforlife.com. growinginloveforlife.com. And when you sign up for that free report, you'll also receive an update next week, or before the program is launched, with a very special introductory offer and details on how you can get that. And the other thing is, if you are already a member of my Save Your Marriage Relationship Transformation program, then you're going to get this new program absolutely free as part of your membership. And if you're thinking of joining my Save Your Marriage program, if you'd really like to, if you've been maybe listening to some of my podcasts and you've been considering joining that program, the other thing is, if you join before the 1st of May, then you'll also get this new program, Save Your Marriage When Your Spouse Doesn't Want to. You're going to get that program free as well. So if you want to sign up for the Save Your Marriage program and get this and get the new program for free, then you can get all of the details at liamnaden.com/program. And if you'd just like to be kept informed about the introductory offer on the new program, then just go to growinginloveforlife.com and sign up there. Alright, so let's get on to our topic today. And funnily enough, it's quite timely for the release of my new course, the Save Your Marriage When Your Spouse Doesn't Want to course, because what I'm called the topic today is what to do when your spouse won't cooperate. And what do you do when you really want to save and strengthen your marriage, and you're putting in a lot of effort and you're doing everything you can? So what do you do when you really want to save and strengthen your marriage? And when you're putting in a lot of effort and you're doing everything you can, you're doing what you think are all the right things, yet no matter what you do, your husband or wife just isn't responding. I mean, maybe they're carrying on regardless. Perhaps they're still insisting that you separate or get a divorce. Or perhaps they're still ignoring you or treating you badly. They might be refusing to communicate in the way you'd like, or they could even be carrying on with an affair. And it could be, of course, an emotional affair where maybe they're texting with someone inappropriately, or they're on the phone all the time, or they're on Facebook. But whatever it is, if you're in that situation, I know that it's very easy to become despondent and disheartened and even more upset with the whole situation. You know, the whole thing just doesn't seem fair, does it? It's as if you're putting in all this effort and your spouse is just carrying on doing exactly what they want when they want, and seemingly with very little or none at all consideration for you. Well, as I mentioned earlier, my new program is going to show you exactly what to do if you're in that situation. But today I want to give you some ideas that you can do in the meantime, or just some ideas that I think will really help you if you are in that situation. Now, the first thing to realize is that if you have a spouse who wants to leave and you want to stay together, then you've really got one of the most difficult situations you could ever face. And in fact, I think it's probably the most difficult situation in any marriage or relationship.